You drink tea to feel better. What is actually in that cup is what the packaging was designed to stop you thinking about. Pesticide residues transfer from dried leaves directly into every brew. A 2024 laboratory study confirmed plastic-containing tea bags release over 1 billion microplastic particles per milliliter of liquid during steeping. An ABC News investigation published in 2025 found documented failures in living and working conditions on plantations certified by both Fairtrade and Rainforest Alliance, supplying the biggest names in British tea. 8 brands sitting on all of that, 4 that chose a different path entirely. Starting now. The brands to skip. Starting with the one that has been collecting royal warrants since 1837 and has never once been required to prove the quality those warrants imply. Brand 1. Twinings. 3 centuries of heritage printed on every box. The word natural applied to products a court has found evidence against. The Organic Consumers Association filed legal action against Twinings for marketing all natural ingredients. Independent testing had identified synthetic herbicides inside the product range, compounds classified as neurotoxins. A Greenpeace India investigation of Twinings tea leaves found residues of DDT. A pesticide banned in United States agriculture in 1972. Banned in Indian agricultural use in 1989, DDT does not clear from the body, it accumulates in fatty tissue. Across years of low-level exposure, it has been connected through decades of research to cancer development, hormonal disruption, and reproductive harm. The royal warrant printed on every box is a historical record. It documents which household once supplied a specific institution at a specific point in time. It requires no ongoing quality standard. Nobody audits it. Nothing about the current formula can revoke it. For 300 years, that distinction did not need to be stated because nobody thought to ask. The legal record now makes the question unavoidable, around £3.50 for 80 bags at most UK supermarkets. A completely different problem here. This brand has not been British for years. The people drinking it every morning are largely unaware. Brand 2. PG Tips. PG Tips is owned by Lipton Teas and Infusions, a Dutch company. Purchased in 2022 by CVC Capital Partners, a private equity firm managing over €200 billion globally. The pyramid bag stayed constant across that transition. The corporate headquarters is Amsterdam. The investment logic is return on capital. Both of those facts exist simultaneously inside every box on the shelf. The bag construction creates the second problem. PG Tips uses PLA bioplastic as sealing material across its range. PLA comes from plant starch rather than fossil fuel. That is positioned as progress. A study published in Environmental Pollution in December 2024 found researchers actively examining what PLA particles do when released under hot liquid conditions. The findings complicate the assumption that plant-derived plastic is safe. Every cup made in a PG Tips bag steeps in that open scientific question. Around £5 for 240 bags at Tesco. What makes this brand worse than both above is the gap between what the certification logos on its packaging promise and what a formal investigation found at the plantations supplying it. Brand 3. Tetley. Fairtrade and Rainforest Alliance logos appear on Tetley boxes. Both are paid for by the brand and audited periodically. The ABC News 2025 investigation examined Sri Lankan plantation conditions. It found documented failings in living and working standards at estates holding both certifications, estates actively supplying Tetley at the time of publication. The logos were valid. The conditions behind them were not what those logos communicate to someone reading the box at Sainsbury's. CBC marketplace testing identified multiple pesticide residues in Tetley samples exceeding Health Canada thresholds. Toxicologists describe the interaction between the compounds as a cocktail effect, multiple substances amplifying one another's toxicity, beyond what any single residue would generate alone. Tetley completed a transition to plant-based bioplastic sealing across its range in 2025. That places it alongside PG Tips for the particle release question, now under active scientific examination. Around £4 for 160 bags. Pause. This is the pattern, and it is worth naming clearly before we go further. 3 brands, 3 entirely different entry points into the same problem. a heritage name hiding pesticide findings behind a royal warrant that cannot be revoked. A corporate ownership structure the vast majority of consumers have no idea exists. A certification gap exposed by independent journalists rather than the certifying body itself. None of those problems appear on any label. None are required to. The regulatory framework in the UK requires brands to tell you what is intentionally in the product. It has never required them to disclose what independent testing found, who currently owns the company, or what conditions existed at the plantation between the last 2 audit visits. That is the space every brand on this list operates inside. The next 5 use it too, but the mechanism shifts each time. Keep watching. Now shift to the brand where the company's own financial collapse became the most honest communication it ever made about how the product had always been managed. Brand 4. Typhoo. Typhoo filed notice of intent to appoint administrators in late 2024. Losses had reached nearly £40 million. The brand remains on shelves in some supermarkets. The collapse matters to tea buyers for one specific reason. When a company is managing toward insolvency, quality investment is the first line item removed. Sourcing standards, contamination testing, and supplier audits are all costs. A management team working to keep a business alive has a structural incentive to defer every one of those expenses indefinitely. The Ethical Consumer 2026 assessment placed Typhoo in the worst category for packaging transparency. The only major UK brand with no published information about plastic content in its bags. No website disclosure, no box detail, no response to documented consumer inquiries during the assessment period. A brand under severe financial pressure with no plastic transparency and no pesticide testing on record. Every quality-related risk transferred directly to the person holding the cup. Around £2.50 for 80 bags were still stocked. Here is where the cultural weight of a brand becomes its most effective protection against the scrutiny that weight should attract. Brand 5. Yorkshire Tea. Yorkshire Tea held 37% of the UK black tea market as of 2024. The advertising campaign featuring Patrick Stewart and Sean Bean embedded the brand so deeply into British identity that examining it feels almost impertinent. That cultural position is worth more to the business than any sourcing upgrade. It removes the commercial need for one entirely. Think about how Yorkshire Tea became untouchable, not through quality audits or transparency reports, through years of advertising built around northern directness, doing things properly, and a mug of tea as shorthand for honesty and decency. That identity was constructed deliberately and carefully. When a brand feels like it represents your values, questioning it feels like questioning yourself. The marketing team knew exactly what it was building. A brand people would defend before they would scrutinise. The ABC News 2025 investigation found identical plantation conditions at Sri Lankan farms supplying Yorkshire Tea. The same farms, the same active certifications. The Business and Human Rights Resource Centre reported in 2022 that 20 plantation companies in Sri Lanka formally challenged mandated wage increases. They argued the legal minimum daily rate would render their operations unprofitable. A tea bag priced at 2 pence creates that pressure mathematically. The budget that produced the Patrick Stewart and Sean Bean campaigns is not available to address wages at the estates those adverts never show. Yorkshire tea bags use heat-sealing bioplastic construction. Neither celebrity nor cultural loyalty changes that. Around £5 for 240 bags. Here's where things get strange. This brand does not have a private equity story or a certification scandal. Its problem is quieter than either of those. The name is doing all the work, and nobody ever thinks to check what is actually behind it. This one charges a premium because Marks & Spencer has always communicated quality before the customer even reads the label. The tea has never been required to earn that communication. Brand 6. Marks & Spencer Tea. Marks & Spencer built its reputation on a straightforward premise. By the time a product reaches its shelves, the quality vetting has already been done. That premise holds across many of its food categories. For tea, it dissolves quietly under examination. M&S own brand tea carries no Soil Association organic certification on its mainstream range. No published pesticide residue results exist anywhere on its website or product documentation. The sourcing is described in broad geographic terms. No estates are named, no blending specifics are published. The composition of the blend can shift between seasons with no obligation to notify the customer. A shopper paying the M&S premium is paying for the brand's general quality reputation applied to a product where that reputation has never been independently verified at the ingredient level. The sourcing opacity is the failure specific to this brand. Every premium positioning implies an obligation to demonstrate what the premium paid for. M&S tea documentation doesn't do that work. The customer's trust in the broader brand is being borrowed by a product that has not earned it in its own right. Around £2.50 for 80 bags. Most people watching this do not realise the next brand also owns 2 other brands already named on this list. Subscribe now, because what follows covers the corporate structure sitting silently behind a significant portion of every tea shelf in Britain. Most people drinking this product every morning do not know they are doing so because it owns the names printed on the packaging they actually read. Brand 7. Lipton. Lipton Teas and Infusions owns PG Tips, Brooke Bond, T2 and Lipton simultaneously. It is the largest tea company in the world by volume. When a Lipton yellow label bag goes into a British cup, it comes from the same corporate structure that produces PG Tips, the same private equity ownership, the same Amsterdam headquarters. Here is the traceability problem that scale creates. When one company controls this many brands, the consumer who believes they are choosing between competitors is often choosing between different labels on the same supply chain. The shopper who avoids PG Tips and reaches for Lipton may be purchasing from the same sourcing infrastructure under a different name. That is not a hypothetical scenario. It is the direct consequence of a market structure where a single private equity-backed entity controls a majority of British tea consumption. Real consumer choice requires genuinely independent competitors. Across a significant portion of the UK tea shelf, that independence no longer exists. It has not existed since 2022. The Lipton brand carries its own documented records separate from its subsidiaries. CBC marketplace testing found pesticide residues in Lipton yellow label and clear green tea samples. Greenpeace India testing of Lipton leaf material found multiple agrochemical compounds in single samples. One batch contained residues of 13 different substances simultaneously. 13. Lipton's public response was that the products met all applicable regulations. Meeting a regulatory threshold and containing no pesticide residue are statements with entirely different meanings. Bags sold under the Lipton label in the UK use bioplastic sealing material identical in construction to what was documented for PG Tips. The global procurement scale behind the brand makes the origin of any specific batch essentially untraceable by the end consumer. Around £2 for 40 bags. And the last brand on this list hides its most significant failure not in a certification document or a corporate ownership structure. It hides it inside the bag itself. Brand 8. Co-op. Own brand tea. Co-op was among the first major UK retailers to stock fair trade certified tea. That history is genuine. It does not tell you what grade of leaf is inside the bag, and that is the question the brand has never answered. Most mass-market UK tea bags are filled with what the industry grades as fannings and dust. The lowest classification of processed tea leaf. After whole leaves and broken leaves have been sorted and sold to premium buyers, what remains is processed through CTC machinery, cut, tear, curl, into fragments small enough to dissolve in under 2 minutes. This is the material that produces a dark cup quickly, carries almost no flavour complexity, and requires milk and sugar to be worth drinking. Co-op own brand tea does not disclose the grade of leaf inside its bags. The fair trade mark on the front guarantees a price floor was met at the plantation. It says nothing about which tier of leaf was selected once that price was paid. Paying fairly for the lowest grade of tea is not the same as paying for quality. Most people buying co-op tea with confidence in that fair trade mark have never been told those are 2 entirely different things. Around £1.80 for 80 bags, 8 brands to avoid, 8 different failure modes, benefits: one, consistent outcome, a cup you cannot independently verify. But here is something most people never hear. Avoiding problematic tea is only half the story. The real question is what actually replaces it. Because genuinely clean tea is not expensive or difficult to find. It has been sitting on the same shelf you have been walking past for years. Here is what it looks like when a brand actually publishes its standards. The brand's worth buying. Now compare that to what happens when a brand actually publishes its standards. Now, the good news. And the first safe option has been the UK's largest fair trade tea producer since 1994, available on the same shelf as every brand just covered. Safe Brand 1, Clipper Organic Fair Trade. Clipper became the UK's first fair trade certified tea brand in 1994. It remains the world's largest, supporting over 114,000 farmers and workers across African and Indian growing regions. That founding commitment has not shifted in 30 years. The fair trade premium is independently audited to verify it reaches producers rather than packaging budgets. That is the first meaningful difference from every certification carrying brand in the first half of this list. The Soil Association Organic Certification requires annual independent inspection of the full growing and processing chain. It prohibits synthetic pesticide application. It verifies origin at every stage of production. That annual audit cycle is what makes this certification worth trusting, rather than simply noticing. A brand cannot pay for a Soil Association mark and then operate without scrutiny until renewal. The body returns every year, inspects the full chain, withdraws certification if the standard is not maintained. For the first time in this list, that is what accountability actually looks like. Not a logo purchased once, a standard enforced continuously. The bags are unbleached. That removes the chlorine bleaching process that introduces dioxin compounds into conventional white tea bags. The sealing material is plant-based bioplastic derived from non-GM cellulose rather than petroleum-based polypropylene. A genuine step forward from conventional heat sealing. B Corporation certification adds independently verified corporate accountability above the ingredient standard. Look specifically for the Green Soil Association logo on the box. Without it, you are holding the non-organic sub-range. Same brand name, none of these verified standards. Around £3 for 40 bags at Sainsbury's, Waitrose and Amazon UK. Most shoppers never look this far, and that is exactly what makes what comes next worth knowing. Makaibari Estate in Darjeeling has been certified biodynamic longer than most British tea buyers have been alive. This is the brand that sources from that estate and puts it in a bag without adding a single piece of plastic to it. Safe Brand 2, Hampstead Tea. Hampstead Tea sources most of its tea from the Makaibari Tea Estate in Darjeeling. The estate uses biodynamic methods, a regenerative approach to farming that encompasses the health of soil, plants, animals, and the surrounding ecosystems simultaneously. Biodynamic certification is verified by Demeter International. It requires the entire agricultural system to function as a closed, self-sustaining unit. Where organic farming prohibits synthetic inputs, biodynamic demands active regeneration of soil health, of biodiversity, of water systems, assessed independently on each audit cycle. This is not greenwashing language. It is a farming philosophy with an international certification body enforcing it independently of anything Hampstead says about itself. Hampstead has been rated the most ethical tea brand in the UK by Ethical Consumer across multiple independent annual assessments. Understanding why biodynamic matters beyond the certification language, conventional organic farming removes the worst inputs. Biodynamic farming requires the land to produce more life than it started with. For tea, the mineral and antioxidant content of the leaf is directly connected to the vitality of the soil it grows in. That distinction is not philosophical. It affects what ends up in the cup in ways a standard organic certification does not capture. The bags require no heat sealing material at all. Hampstead uses a mechanical stitching process to close every bag. No bioplastic, no polypropylene, no synthetic adhesive of any kind entering the brew. A witch investigation examining 28 UK tea brands confirmed Hampstead as one of only 4 genuinely plastic-free brands. The entire range is 100% organic with no lesser sub-range, creating a halo for products that do not meet the same standard. Every Hampstead product carries identical verified credentials. That consistency is rare. It reflects a brand whose independence from any parent company means nobody above it is pressuring it to cut corners for margin. Available at Waitrose, Amazon UK, Planet Organic, and directly at hampsteadtea.com. Around £3.50 for 20 bags. No polypropylene, no bioplastic, no adhesive, no staple, just one stitch of organic cotton. This is what physically removing all plastic from a tea bag looks like when a brand commits to doing it completely. Safe Brand 3, Puka Organic Herbal Tea. Puka's tea bag paper is made from natural abaca fibre, wood pulp and plant cellulose, closed with a stitch of organic non-GMO cotton thread. No heat sealing process, no fossil fuel plastic, no bioplastic of any kind, no adhesive. Puka was the first company in the world to use organic cotton to close tea bags entirely, eliminating the heat sealing step rather than substituting one material for another. The transparency is physical. You can see the stitch. You do not need to read a report to verify the claim. That is what genuine transparency feels like. This is worth understanding directly in the context of the brands covered earlier. The reason genuinely plastic-free bags remain rare is not a technical difficulty. Cotton stitching has been available to manufacturers for decades. The reason most brands have not adopted it is cost per unit. A stitch bag takes longer to produce than a heat-sealed one. Puka chose to absorb that cost. Every brand in the first half of this list made the opposite decision. The relief when you hold a Puka bag is that the choice is visible before the water has even boiled. Soil Association Organic Certification covers every ingredient inside the bag and the bag's physical construction. The leaves and the bag structure both independently verified to the same standard. Fair for Life certification adds an audited framework for fair payment and conditions across growing regions. One relevant context: Puka lost its B Corporation certification in April 2024 following integration into the larger Lipton Teas and Infusions business. That reflects a change in corporate accountability at parent company level, not the product's ingredient or construction standard. The cup itself remains among the cleanest available in the UK, around £3.50 for 20 bags at Sainsbury's, Tesco and Waitrose. And the final safe pick is the one most British shoppers walk past every week without ever picking up, run by an independent British family with no private equity structure above it. Safe Brand 4, Dragonfly Tea. Dragonfly is an independent family-run British tea company. The organic range bags are folded and stitched with organic cotton thread, zero glue, zero polypropylene, zero metal staples. Every new harvest is sent to an independent laboratory, not to confirm it meets international standards, to confirm it exceeds them. That requirement to exceed rather than merely meet is a different level of sourcing integrity from what the regulatory minimum demands. It is also a commitment that no external owner is pressuring the company to soften. Dragonfly's independence matters specifically in the context of this list. When Puka was acquired by Unilever, then moved into the Lipton Teas and Infusions structure, it lost its B Corporation status. The certifying body concluded the company's practices under new ownership no longer met the required standard. Dragonfly carries no parent company creating that same risk. The family making sourcing decisions is the same family that built the brand. No private equity return timeline reshaping those priorities from above. On a shelf where one company now owns multiple leading names, finding a brand that answers to nobody but its own founding values is something worth recognizing. That independence is not incidental, it is the product. Which? Analysis of 28 UK tea brands confirmed Dragonfly as one of only 4 genuinely plastic-free brands. The organic range carries Organic Food Federation certification. The bags are fully home compostable, available at Waitrose, Ocado, Holland & Barrett, and online at dragonflytea.com. Around £3.50 for 20 bags. The choice has been sitting beside the recognisable names the whole time. Finally, now you know what it represents. 8 brands to avoid, 4 that earned what every brand on that list claimed. The pesticide residue, the plastic releasing into every cup, the plantation conditions behind the certification logo. None of it has to appear on the front of the box. The brands in the first half of this list made a deliberate choice to keep it off. Find the Soil Association mark. Verify the bag is genuinely plastic-free rather than plastic substituted. 30 seconds at the shelf is all it takes. The biggest names on the shelf spent decades building trust. The 4 brands you just saw spent decades earning it. There's a difference.